paradox. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to siege test for the first time, because I've either not been online when they've done siege testing or I've been on other servers. So I want to give Intrepid their second like A+ in a row from me. And the reason why I say that is I understand a lot of people don't understand what alpha testing is. A lot of people are under the assumption that since they've seen games, and let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this for today. A lot of people have seen games come out of Korea. They've seen games come out of Korea and they've seen them labeled with alpha. And the problem is, for about the last decade, anything that comes out with an alpha tag on it out of Korea is never really an alpha. Let me give you a couple of parameters. If the game is already launched in another part of the world, Korea, Japan, China, Vietnam, whatever have you, if the game is already launched somewhere else, it's not an alpha. It's simply not an alpha. You've already launched the game somewhere else. It already has the gold rating somewhere else in the world. Now, most of the time, 95% of the time, what they're doing is they're doing localization. And there's nothing wrong with calling it like a localization marketing event. In fact, I wish more companies would call it a localization marketing event, just for that upfront, that upfront honesty. Hey, what sort of event are we doing? We're doing a marketing event. We're doing a preview event. I don't remember exactly what Lost Ark has their thing labeled as. They have it as a closed technical alpha. Okay? But that's not genuine. Okay? That's not legitimate. They're calling, like Archeage, exactly. They're calling Lost Ark a closed technical alpha. But honestly, that's bullshit, and that's not authentic. There's no integrity there. The game is already launched globally. It's now just coming to the West via Amazon Game Studios, which is weird because Amazon Game Studios, but also Steam. So I don't, you know what I'm saying? But I understand that some people say like they're going to change the cash shop, or they're going to change the, they're doing the localization. Localization doesn't send you back to an alpha state. Localization is a step in beta. Okay, we've got the game built. The game's all ready to go. What languages are we translating into? That's not an alpha state. That's not an alpha parameter. That's not an alpha testing thing. And then like Elyon's in beta testing, localization, but Elyon is making specific changes to the cash shop. In fact, when I talk about Elyon on my normal Monday show, I'm very pleased to see they're saying, we heard all of that feedback. A lot of people who jumped on my ass about Elyon in my Elyon comments, guess what? The people making Elyon have said, you know what? That's exactly the feedback we wanted to hear. You think that's pay to win. It's not about the guy who says that amount of gold can be farmed in 30 minutes, so you should shut up about the pay to win. He's one of those elite Royal Guard White Knights that's defending the game. The company was like, thanks for letting us know that people feel that way. Because if it's going to be perceived, if you're going to have a mount in the cash shop, right, and people are going to see, oh, there's actual mounts in the cash shop, that's pay to win, I'm going to walk away from this game. Or you can get that mount, you can earn an equivalent mount in a couple of hours in-game farming gold. They need to better present how that works. You can't get that mount until you already have an equivalent mount. That way it's not pay to win. You see what I'm saying? You could want the motorcycle all you want. You can't get the motorcycle anywhere else but the cash shop, but you don't let people have it out of the cash shop until you've already earned one in game. So it's a way to make it so that you can still sell things in the cash shop, but not have it be pay to win at all. Now, I say all that because Ashes of Creation is actually in Developmental Alpha. Okay, they're actually in Developmental Alpha. And you guys have heard me say on a number of occasions on my show that I already believe that they need to punt. They are very rapidly approaching the July 9th deadline. They're very rapidly approaching the July 14th deadline. I honestly believe Intrepid Studios needs to look at it this coming week, and they need to punt this week. They need to say, you know what? Yeah, we're not going to be ready. We're not going to be ready in 4 weeks. Let's go ahead and let's do two things. Let's go ahead and let's punt, and let's punt responsibly. Let's punt responsibly, and let's say, due to the ghosted AI controller situation, we're not sure when that's going to be resolved. So we want to just wait until we get that fixed, because that's eating up a lot of development time. We're not, and there's, as long as you say what the problem is, and I think Steven's last creative director was really good. These are all the things we want to get accomplished in alpha. But the fact that you still have the Ghost AI controller thing. Punting now, but giving reasons is better than being on the eve of that testing and giving excuses. With that said, what I tested yesterday had improvements. I saw improvements to the performance. And we had like 2 hours of run around and test. And then we had two sieges. We had one at 3 p.m. and we had one at 1 p.m. and one at 3 p.m. The siege plays incredibly well. Siege plays incredibly well. So for those first 2 hours, I saw improvements. I saw new quests. I saw in the build we got on Friday, I saw improvements to some of the quests. I saw new quests. I saw some quests getting completed. You could now complete the shrine. You could complete the kill quest in the shrine. They reduced the number of animated armors you had to kill. So I see them doing iterations, right? I see iterations happening. Just a lot of little things tweaked here and there. But I'm going to say this. The siege idea that they have, I don't think works at all. I don't think the siege idea that they have works at all. I really think that they need to sit down. They need to pull some key people out of the community, and they need to say, we want to hear you guys. Like, remember I said the boss doesn't walk into a room and say, this is the problem, this is the solution, what do you guys think? I think Steven needs to pull about 6 key people into a meeting, and he needs to have a conversation and let them have a conversation between themselves. And he just needs to have people there taking notes, listening to the feedback. I really do believe this. I think what's going to get in the way right now is White Knights are going to say, oh my God, this siege mode is fantastic. But the two major problems with the siege mode is, two major problems with the siege mode right now is, number one, the dragons got to go. I think the dragons are a really cute thing if you want to build that mode as a battleground. As a battleground. You want to build the castle siege mode as a battleground. Number two, the walls have got to be destroyable. The defenders have no reason to not turtle because there's 3 choke points. You probably want the leaders of the most competitive PvP guilds for that, or no, you don't want the leaders of the most competitive PvP guilds for that, because the most competitive guild leaders are going to want something that's exclusive to only... they're going to create something that's so exclusive that it's only the most competitive PvP guilds will do it. You want, like, one really competitive... You want one really competitive PvP guild leader. You want one person, yeah, nice first kind. I love the new first time chat thing. Nice to hear from you. Thank you for chiming in. I'm glad that I'm already advocating on your behalf. I'm already synced up with you. But yeah, the problem is if you have all the most competitive guild leaders, they're going to create something that only the 1%ers like. You want Castle Siege mode to be exclusive to about the top 10% of the server, but you want about the 90 to the 51% to strive to be partaking in that content. So the problem is you can't invite just the most exclusive PvP people. You want like one really competitive PvP guild leader there. You want one person who's going to tell you what you don't want to hear. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to have one Gabriel, one Michael, and then 4 people in the middle. And what I mean, if you guys don't know that reference, it's from the movie Legion. Gabriel and Michael are arguing with each other. Michael gives God what he needs. Michael gives God what he wants. Gabriel gives God what he needs. I was just talking with BCG about this. One of the problems is, we're all really defensive about our own work. We're all really defensive about our own work. We put our blood, our sweat, our tears, our hard work, our energy, our sleepless nights, our early mornings, our skipped vacations, all those things into our project, and then somebody says, "Yeah, but this sucks." And then you're like heartbroken, you're shattered, and your immediate response is to say, "Well, fuck you." You know, the Castle Siege mod, like I'm gonna stop like right here when Steven gets on one of these. When Steven gets on one of these ballistas, in fact, I think he was already on one of these ballistas, wasn't he? These ballistas have just such an insane range, right? They have such an insane range that you create a wall of fire. Okay, so here we go. This right here is problematic. The defenders have too many ballistas. The defenders have too many ballistas. And then the other problem is, and they did comment on this, and so I'm not going to beat them up on this. I'm not going to beat them up on the range thing. They commented that the ranges weren't tuned right. But as you can see, that big explosion right there, you can create, basically, you guys saw the movie We Were Soldiers. Hale Moore, Colonel Moore, he uses the artillery as a shield, because he had pre-gridded that entire field that they were going into. When you're trying to rush the castle, these ballista create like a shield of fire, and it's not as bad as like Chivalry 2's ballista where it's like a one-shot kill, but you can definitely chunk some people's health. Now, unfortunately, I can't make a video on the siege mode yet. I'd love to be able to talk about some of the problems I'm having. But as you see, there's 3 choke points for the defenders. The first choke point, go back, right there. I think it's hard to do because the video is so long. Yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, the video is so long, I can't get to the exact moment I want. How is the render distance on players in Sieges? I remember Kira TV talking about it looking bad in the vid as the players popping onto view too late. Here's the thing about a comment like that. That's optimization. That's not what they're working on yet. That's all the things that you tweak later. So yes, of course that's going to look bad because that's like saying I walked into the kitchen, I ordered scrambled eggs, and I walked into the kitchen and I looked at a bowl full of raw egg, and it didn't look good. It didn't look appetizing. I mean, of course it's going to look bad, because that's the order of operation. You haven't optimized render distance yet. Just like in the PvE mode, you see the mobs from a little bit far away. You see the mobs from a little bit far away, and they're doing like wonky animations because of the render distance. They're going to optimize that. With that said, the render distance seemed fine. You could see someone. You can definitely see someone from pretty far out. I will say that there is a rendering bug. I'm not sure if it was Samanti or Troll. I don't remember who it was yesterday. One of you guys will remember. You're right on top of the dragon, and then the dragon spawns in. I had that problem as well. I went to go scout something, and I was 20 meters away, and there's a dragon. Oh, it was Happy Pappy. Happy Pappy and I both replicated the same bug. I'm right on top of the dragon, and then the dragon renders. That's not a good time. But those are all tweaks that are going to happen. Right now, though, I really do believe Intrepid needs to stop. And they need to focus on, I don't think they've designed a very good siege map. This particular castle is too favoring to the defenders, given that the defenders already have the advantage of time. And what I mean by that is the defenders only have to run out the clock. Unless you're going to do like a 6-hour siege. In the second siege on whatever server I was on, you think a professional would know what server I was on. I was on... I was on Norland. And I was on Norland, and on our second siege, we blew up all 3 outer gates within 10 minutes. We got the inner gate within another 25 minutes. We got the third throne room gate, I don't know, maybe another 20 minutes, and then that was it. We couldn't get through right here where Steven is right now. We couldn't. No, that wasn't where is he when he's in the throne room? This right here, we were here for there's only one choke point to the final point. There's no other way in here, and these walls aren't currently destructible, so you can't tear down this entire thing. There's literally one gate. The defenders respawn in the basement, and then you respawn as an attacker it's about 45 seconds of travel time if you have to respawn. That right there is bad design. If you're going to have a clock, if you're not going to have a finite number of respawns for the defenders, when that last gate comes down, there's no way to aim the trebuchet inside. You cannot give trebuchet support. So I think Intrepid needs to stop, and I say this, they need to stop before they go down. Like, they're at a crossroad right now. They can go to the left or they can go to the right, but before they go to the left or to the right, they have to sit down and realize all I have to do is hurdle here. Literally, all I'm going to have to do is put a bunch of tanks in there with the wall and just keep dropping AoE. So the single point of failure is the throne room. It's not like a domination map with 5 points and holding most of them wins. I assume so from those messages. No, those control point messages are where you can respawn. The defenders, we controlled as the attackers yesterday all the control points. During the second siege, we controlled all the control points. We were able to respawn directly in the castle courtyard. But the problem is that it's still, you have to respawn at the siege camp. You have to talk to a captain. You have to teleport. You have to load. And then you're just completely overwhelmed. You can't get through that choke point. So I think the two things Intrepid really needs to sit down and think about is, I understand the talking to the NPCs to get through the gates looks weird. It is weird, but you know, it has to be that way. It may be just better to interact with the door, except the door is a destructible. The door is a destructible. So you would end up with glitches. No matter how good your coding is, you would end up with glitches where you wouldn't be able to. Where you wouldn't be able to talk to the door to get through it. No, you don't need to talk to them once the door is destroyed. Once the gate is destroyed, you can pass through it. I know what Milos is saying. It would be better if you could just talk to the door and go through it. Except there's always going to be times where the mesh moves, and you have all seen this. An NPC gets jumped or moved or glitched, and now you can't talk to him. It would be the same with the wall. Like, you talk to the door, and then strangely enough, the physics makes the door go like this, and now you can't access the door. What I want is one click and not having to skip through a dialogue. It's not really like that. It looks like that, but you literally hit F, and what it is all it is popping up a box. It's confirm or cancel. That's really, it's not like multiple pages of dialogue. You don't even have to read the dialogue. Once you know what they're asking you, they're literally saying leave or stay. So, I mean, it looks weird, but once you start playing it, it doesn't play weird. Which is another thing about alpha. Go back. See, unfortunately, this video is so long that I can't. Right there, that thing right there, that's one of the that's one of the respawn points. It's still 2 clicks when you can have one. It is 2 clicks when you could have one, but it's 2 clicks when you could have one, but you need 2. Do you want to accidentally click the NPC and go through the door, where in that moment when you're running up to the NPC, you're like, oh shit, there's reds right outside that door. Nope, cancel, I want to stay inside. I get your point, but we're talking a matter of a half a second. I think it's better to err on the side of caution and you be like, oh shit, I don't want to go out there. Especially since, you know, you start to get into that mental, that sort of mental, okay, I know where I'm going. Oh shit, there's a lot of guys there. Maybe like a sortie gate at the side of the gate that the defenders can click and just get out, but I guess that's a more detailed thing. I mean, no, you could do that. That's the same thing. The only problem is that then if you make it a one-click option, once you click it, you're committed. And then people would be like, well, I didn't have the freedom to abort my choice. But yeah, I think Intrepid really needs to sit down. I don't like the dragon idea at all. And I say that because it's supposed to be a PvP siege, right? It's supposed to be a PvP siege. Going out there and trying to kill a dragon, okay? Well, no, the defenders do have an incentive to stop the attackers. Exactly. The dragons don't really work it. The defenders have no incentive to try to stop the attackers from killing them. And where they certainly won't if they can just hold one choke point. Absolutely. Absolutely. If they don't change how that choke point works, because Steven has said in the past that the more of those control points you hold, the longer the enemy's respawn is. Okay? But here's the thing about having multiple different mechanics that you're going to have in your final version that you don't have in your testing version. Right now, Chivalry 2's sieges are more fun than Ashes of Creations. Chivalry 2's sieges are more fun than Ashes of Creations. And I say that because, number one, the entire map can be done in less than 30 minutes. And I understand some people are like, well, a longer siege is great. Yeah, a longer siege is great until you've spent an hour clearing 3 gates, then a choke point, and then a second choke point, and now you can't do anything. And I'll tell you, this happened in Archeage a lot as well. There were a lot of sieges in Archeage. Yeah, it's only fun if there's progression. It's only fun if you had a chance to win and you had a chance to lose. But right now, the way I see, yeah, or spend 30 minutes spawn attacking campers. That's the other thing that happened. On the first fight, the defenders outnumbered the attackers by so much that we were able to push all the way to their spawn point and just keep them bottled in. It wasn't until they had a good push and then they were able to spread out and they were able to capture some of those other spawn points and they were able to move across the board laterally that then they were able to make another attempt. But the thing, I don't want to be too critical of how that played out because that is how it should play out if you're outnumbered. If you only bring 75 people to the siege and the defenders have 250, you're not going to win. It's just like comparing different games. I hear people in Chivalry 2 right now saying respect the 1v1. No, I ain't respecting the 1v1. It's not a 1v1 game. Like the people who've said, well, if I can only get 200 people together to attack you, you should only defend with 200 people. I'm not quite sure what fucking crazy town you got off the bus on, but if I hold a castle and I have my 250 person garrison, I don't give a shit if you bring 200. I don't give a shit if you bring 248. I don't care if you bring 91. I'm going to defend my castle with my 250 people. Sorry, you should respect the no, I shouldn't. You should respect the fact that this is my castle and I don't want to lose it. How well does aiming and shooting up on the walls and down from the walls work? It's a major problem in some other games, especially if you have stuff like AoE that you want to target at the top of the wall that you can't directly see. So right now you can't use abilities on the ballistas. You can use abilities on the person manning the ballista, and I did kill a bunch of people on that west wall. I went up. On the west wall of this castle, there's a way to get up there and push around to the throne room, but not into the throne room. I killed a bunch of people on the ballistas because dismounting from the ballista is difficult to do. Dismounting off your mount is difficult to do. So, that's one good. I'm gonna say this. That's one good thing they have done. When you're on the ballista, you can't see more than your like 180 degree peripheral vision. And so if somebody comes up behind you, like if a cleric comes up behind you, they can 3-shot you. If a tank comes up, they can like 2-shot you. You got to have people up on the wall defending the people on the ballistas, at least to do call-outs. What is the win condition for the attacks? Just channeling on an object? How does that work? Or do you have to channel for a total amount of time? I believe Steven said it's a 4 to 5 minute channel. And once you're channeling, you can't be CC'd, you can only be killed. And the channeling in the live version, like if I'm the attacker and it's my whole guild, it would be like me and Samani would be the only 2 people that would be authorized to channel. It's the guild leader and 1 officer are permitted to channel. So it's not like anybody can channel. So I like that mechanic. It means you have to get a specific person into the throne room. And it lets the attackers are going to know. Well, one thing you got to remember is depending on what sort of information they give, you may not know who the guild leader is. A smart guild leader may change guild leadership just before the beginning of the siege. So I'm fighting Envious. I'm attacking Envious's castle. And Envious is working really hard to keep me out of the throne room. And all of a sudden they see the throne room is being channeled. Okay, they're like, okay, well, we know Jahlon's out here. Who's the other officer? So they see who's channeling, and now they work to keep Jahlon and that other officer out. And strategy-wise, I keep backing up because people are going to pursue because they're always kill happy. And now they find out the room is being channeled. And like, what the fuck? We know Jay's out here. We know we know Samani's out here. We saw him channeling before. Who's channeling? Well, that's because I gave up guild leadership just before the fight. Now you've spent a lot of time and effort keeping me isolated for no reason. It's like, good job, but I was never the threat. The attackers were fighting through the wall. The wall had no collision. You know what? The defenders were pulling me through the wall as well. So the wall, I'm not sure if that wall is supposed to be, I'm not sure if the wall is supposed to be destroyable. Maybe it's all around easier to make the win condition the destruction of something. No, I like the idea of a channel. It worked really well in Archeage. It worked really well in Revelation Online. I do want to say this. They are going to have to change. I mean, the siege is going to have to be sat down and dissected and realized if there's not a change to the core mechanic, it's going to play very bad. The defenders respawning in the basement and only having to go upstairs. There's a reason why in Archeage, right? There's a reason why in Archeage, you had, sorry, I didn't, in Archeage, here's your castle, right? And the defenders respawn is right here. And the attackers respawn is right here. And then you had this crystal in the middle, right? You had this crystal in the middle. And then what happened was the stages were, let me divide up this wall. That rogue green dot was going to trigger me. So in Archeage, what you had was this wall was divvied up into section. Why is that not? This wall was divvied up into sections, right? And the more sections of the wall that were still standing gave a buff to the crystal. When you destroyed walls, which you needed to destroy walls to get in to the crystal room, to the crystal. The crystal was just out there in the world. You had to build the walls around it any way you wanted. As you took out walls, the level of the crystal went down, which meant it took more damage. Once you reduced the crystal to 0, what happened was this respawn became the attackers, and this respawn became the defenders. I've broken your walls, I've broken your defense, I've threatened your crystal. Now during the channel, we have the closer respawn. You've already, as the defenders, your defenses have been breached. You have lost the initiative, you have lost control. So what we're doing now is we're flipping the script. The attackers get to respawn closer. I almost think that they're going to have to do something like this with Ashes. Otherwise, the defenders can just suicide zombie rush turtle, and they always have the clock advantage. If you did a switch, as soon as the throne room was vulnerable, and vulnerable is defined as the channel has started at any point, I think the respawn point should flip. And then the defenders need to get in there, and they have to do a 4-minute channel to get their respawn back. If they can hold the throne room for 4 minutes, they get their throne room back because the throne room is no longer threatened. If the attackers get in again and start a channel, they only have to start a channel, they get the closer respawn, and now the defenders have to come from the farther away place. And what this is going to do is it's going to create fucking chaos everywhere, because the respawn's going to be flipping, and now all of a sudden you're going to, like, the attackers just had a like 20-person wipe, but I start the channel. My attackers are going to respawn in the basement. Your defenders that just got wiped are going to be way out there at the camp, it's going to be a running firefight all the way back to the castle, because now my guys are trying to pile into the throne room to hold that choke point. Your guys have to get back to the throne room, wipe what's in the throne room, and it's going to be a fight all the way back to the castle. But as it played last night, I don't think the throne room works. It might work. It might work if the walls can be destroyed. Wouldn't that recreate a loop and not an ending? No, because what happens is as soon as the attacker, as soon as I start the channel, we get the closer respawn. Because remember, I still have to hold that channel for 4 minutes. But once I've touched the throne and I've started the channel, I now have the initiative. The initiative is swung to me. I should be able to respawn in the basement and run up. I've corrupted your temple. I've taken the virtue of the throne by polluting it. You have failed to hold me at the final gate. I touched it. I started my channel. I've started my claim to the throne. You have failed to hold your outer wall, your inner wall, your throne room. Why should you continue to have the closer respawn? My guys are now respawning in the basement, and now you're under pressure. The defenders are under pressure. They have to hold the throne room for 4 minutes to get their respawn back. You guys are coming from way out. Chances are we're going to wipe you because you've already had an outer wall, an inner wall, and a throne room. Couldn't you just keep sneaking a parkour rogue into the room then? No, you can't get into the throne room. You can't get into the throne room. Perhaps it would create a second respawn point inside. No, I would just flip it like you did in Archeage. Just be like, has the channel been started? Yes. If yes, attackers respawn in the basement. Defenders, have the defenders cleanse the throne. If no, defenders respawn out at the outer siege camp. You need at least 4 entry points into the throne room. No, I won't say you need 4. You need 2. 4 is too many. Because 4 just creates an indefensible position. The defender should have an advantage, but the defender should not have a single point of failure advantage, and it's right here. That's the gate, and everybody can just pile in there and drop AoE. You need to have at least 2 entry points, because then you can whittle them down. Now, like I said, the trick to that is Steven has said in the past that respawn is not going to be the way it is. It's going to be batched respawn. Like, the more control point, like if the defenders don't hold any of those outer control points, their respawn rate is supposed to be higher. But if there's 50 mages in both entries spamming AoE, how are you going to get through that? Again, if it's working properly, my reinforcements are closer than yours. Because I have all 5 respawn points. I'm respawning in 20 seconds, you're respawning in 90 seconds. I like the idea of a single point of defense for defenders since it's smart base building and logical for a good base. Maybe the attackers should have the ability to make more entrances if they bring the equipment. I agree with you, except there's only one problem with that. Time. Real world sieges don't have a time limit. Real world sieges, right? Real world sieges, I don't have a 90-minute window that I have to win in. I can just continue. Once I take your outer wall, once I take your outer wall, and you no longer can hit my trebuchets with ballistas, why would I not just knock down your entire castles? Why would I not just sit there and trebuchet the shit out of it? Real world sieges can last years. That's the trick. Remember, sieges aren't usually won by the defenders. Sieges are won by the defender's allies who land behind. Like, the King of England is attacking a castle in France. The defenders usually don't rally out of the castle, right? The defenders usually don't rally out of the castle. The defenders are going to sit in the castle for as long as they have food. Meanwhile, those messages that they dispatched, you know, before they got bottled up, sieges are won by the defense, but for waiting for reinforcements. Reinforcements come up behind, and the sieging enemy has to abandon their siege because they're just as worn out sieging this castle as you are sitting inside, and the new fresh army shows up and will just run you down. That's why I don't like Game of Thrones for a lot of things, but I do like Game of Thrones where Jaime Lannister marches up to River Run with 8,000 Lannisters, and he's got Braun at his side, and he said, "Good thing we're friends, otherwise we'd be fucking you in the ass right now." And that's exactly how that siege would have gone. The Frey boys didn't set up a rear perimeter. So if River Run's allies had come up behind them, they just would have killed all the Freys that were sieging. Instead, it was the Lannisters that showed up and was like, "Oh, hi, we're your allies, dumbasses. Get this siege in order." Make 3 entry points to the throne room, north, east, and west. A channel has started to claim the throne. Both respawns change, 1 east, 1 west, 1 random each time. Decide gets to prevent pre-camping. No, there should be pre-camping. There absolutely should be pre-camping. Because the whole fight, like, I like what Intrepid has done with the idea that the defenders can win the siege early by riding out to the campaign headquarters and destroying the campaign headquarters. One thing I didn't like about Archeage was that there was no way. I think the defenders should have a way to end the siege early, which requires the attackers to keep some sort of scout presence at their campaign headquarters. But the problem with this whole thing becomes the dragons become another level of distraction. You have to make sure that the attackers don't get the dragons. I kind of get where they're going with it. It's to stop, because every game like Archeage sucked in regards of the first 20 minutes to 30 minutes of an Archeage siege was just horrible with you trying to knock down the walls. They're shooting cannons at you. You're shooting catapults and you're using trebuchets to shoot at them, and you're pushing siege towers. And it really was just like either a rout and you got a wall taken down in the first 20 minutes, or it was this isn't going to happen. But one thing I didn't like about the siege that I saw yesterday, I was able to kill a trebuchet pretty easily with a group of like 3 or 4 people. Steven actually flashed a message that said, "Reminder, you can kill the ballistas." There were about 8 of us on one ballista for about 4 minutes. And it's like, man, if it takes that long to destroy a ballista, it's easier to just take the gate and push them back. Also, one thing I didn't like is they have a second ring of ballistas, which right now, the defenders have too many ballistas. There's too many ballistas in that castle. Maybe in the future, rogues will be able to disable ballistas. I doubt a single class or a single archetype would be able to disable them. I mean, I could imagine there being every class should have some sort of way to do that. I know people always want to give the rogues something. But given how stealth works in Ashes, I don't believe you're going to be able to maneuver the way you want with rogues. Also, I don't like another thing about the castle, because I like to, in fairness to the defense and the offense, the defense gets kind of boned on the back part of their castle on the west side, because there's like a ledge you can drop. There's a ledge you can stand on, which is how the castle's designed, But it's like, why would your design of your castle be this bad? There's actually a spot where the attackers can come around on the west, go around the back, and then stand on this ledge. The attackers can't get up there. The defenders they can get pulled from there. The attackers can't get up there to attack. So I would like to see that fixed, maybe. I understand that it's supposed to give the attackers something, but it doesn't get them into the throne room. It's just like Trolley and I were downstairs where the attackers can choose to teleport down into a tunnel and then go to the east courtyard or the west courtyard, which is fine, but it's bullshit because if I get to that tunnel, I can't get upstairs. So that shouldn't be a teleport. That should be a stairwell. They should have to go down a flight of stairs. I don't care if you put a gate on it, but that should be a way up for everybody. I think one good possibility for the future would be the attackers having an expensive siege machine option outranging the ballista. It would force the defenders to sortie out and destroy those siege machines and give the attackers the initiative of making progress. Well, actually, that's how it's supposed to be. A trebuchet should have a longer range than a ballista. And Steven said that the ranges weren't accurate for yesterday's testing. There was a big message, and in the first test he said the ranges are wrong. We'll try to get it fixed for the second test. So that's already there. That's already there. But now, like I said, the walls weren't destroyable. So unless the trebuchets can destroy the ballistas, the defense will be like, fine, fuck it. You can't take out our walls. You can only take out our gates. Well, now we'll just stay up here. You have to bring your trebuchets into range. Now, the ballistas can't destroy the trebuchets either, but we can kill everybody around them. So I think they need to sit down and really think about, like, if this is going to be your premier event, I think there's a lot of things now that have to be dissected. A lot of things have to be dissected here and either said, okay, this is how it currently functions, this is how it's intended to function, or this is how it currently functions, which is how it's intended to function, and now we need to look at it. With that said, the combat was great. The combat was spot on. I had no lag. I did have some issues mounting and dismounting in combat. I'm not going to say that there's not a bunch of bugs, because that's not my flavor, that's not my style, that's not why you guys come to the show. You don't want me to, you guys don't want me to, blow smoke up your ass and say how great it is. Have I played ESO? What do you think about it as an MMO compared to AOC? Seems to share Ashes of Creation combat mechanics. No, it doesn't. ESO doesn't share Ashes combat mechanics at all. ESO's combat, ready? I don't want to speak about ESO's combat because I'm not an ESO fan. So somebody actually wrote that. ESO's combat is a wobbly, janky, and just lame. It feels like your character is incompetent and unconfident because of the bad animations, and their animation cancels make it worse. I didn't write that because I'm not a proficient ESO player. I hate ESO. I love ESO's vignettes. I love the story. I love a lot of things about ESO. The combat is fucking jank. That person wrote that comment. They said it's jank. If Dante's here, Dante's got like 5,000 hours in ESO. Dante says the combat's horrible. Zetrix, if Zetrix is here, Zetrix has I don't know how many hours in ESO. Says the PvP combat is bad. My wife's guild went to ESO. My wife played ESO, and it was funny last night. I asked her what she was going downstairs to play, and she's like, ESO is horrible. I'm not going to play it. Having played ESO, Guild Wars 2, BDO, Revelation Online, Archeage, Final Fantasy 11, holy shit, like, not hundreds, dozens of other games, I would not say Ashes of Creation is like ESO. because I don't want to insult Ashes of Creation. I'm sorry. ESO is great story. It has great vignettes. It has great ideas for its character classes, but the combat is just horrible. Combat's just horrible. As long as there's a high skill ceiling, I'll probably enjoy whatever combat they put out. There's not going to be a high skill ceiling. There won't be a high skill ceiling. So if you're expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. Number one, I say this as a tab player. Tab games aren't really high skill ceilings to begin with. Ashes of Creation, 40 to 50% of your character power comes from your gear. That automatically means you're gonna have a lower skill ceiling because gear makes up a lot of difference. How do you play thousands of hours with horrible combat? It's real simple. How have I been subscribed to Final Fantasy XIV for over 1,100 days with a game that has a 2.5 second global cooldown to start? I hate the combat in Final Fantasy XIV. I despise the combat in Final Fantasy XIV. I hate it. I tell the story all the time about how easy Final Fantasy XIV's combat is. We were tanking a new raid, and my wife, we had queued up. My wife had to go somewhere, so we needed to get our raid done. And my wife put my lunch on my desk. It was a cold sandwich, so it was a cold cut sandwich. Wasn't in any hurry to eat. And I'm tanking. I'm the main tank, right? And my wife hears this, and she's like, because her desk is there downstairs. Her desk is that way for me. And Tamir turns over her shoulder and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And there's me, one-handed playing Final Fantasy, eating a sandwich. And she's like, are you for real right now? And I'm like, rah, rah, yeah, rah, tank. And Final Fantasy combat is not difficult at all. You can play that game as a tank, eating a sandwich. You can play the game one-handed, eating a sandwich. Okay? I would never say Final Fantasy XIV's combat is great. I say the story is great. The experience is great. Final Fantasy XIV combat could be so much better, but the artificial global cooldown and bullet spongy boss fights just get, yeah. But the reason why the global cooldown is so long is because if you didn't play Final Fantasy XIV at launch, then you never experienced the wonders of trying to get your relic weapon in Titan hard mode, where Titan would throw his telegraph. Sorry. Titan's supposed to throw a telegraph for landslide 3 seconds before he throws landslide. But because they kept everything server side, in Japan it works great. When everything's server side in Japan and everybody's playing on a 30 millisecond ping, works amazing. However, the way they do their server checks is that it was completely possible for Titan to do two things in one server check due to your latency. And what would actually happen is, instead of throwing the telegraph and then you getting and then you getting a warning and then getting thrown off, what was actually happening is you would get thrown off and then the telegraph would happen. I understand what you mean, but you can't just... What you're saying is, I know the whole global cooldown had to exist at one time, but after all these years, that should have been optimized out. You can't just optimize that out. Unless you wanted to do Final Fantasy, A Realm Reborn again, you can't just optimize out global cooldown that was put in there for a reason. And also the way their combat system works and the way their server checks work, you can't just optimize that out. You're really talking about changing the entire back end of the game. What they've done is by putting the off global cooldown abilities in there to give you something to do, but then they do that, and what is they decide to put in off global cooldown abilities, and they like Gunbreaker. I don't have... What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, and then my defensive ones. So I have 7 off global cooldown abilities plus my defensive ones. It's not, I mean, for me, it's easy. But for summoners complain that they're getting carpal tunnel and hand arthritis because they're doing nothing but pressing buttons. Well, what do you want? Do you want, do you want to do things, do you want to have things to do or not? You can, but you're redesigning right from its core. Well, yeah, that's what I just said. You mean you look at WoW checks, they don't need 2.5 second global cooldown checks to keep players out of the bad. But yeah, I feel like what you're saying, the 2.5 part of the game's core at this stage. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You can't you said optimize out. You can't optimize out the 2.5 second global cooldown. You'd have to redesign it. And then it's not just a matter of redesigning, the global cooldown. It's a matter of redesigning the animations. I don't know if you play Gunbreaker, but look at how stupid Gunbreaker looks when you're using your off global cooldown. You're interrupting your own animations. It's the dumbest looking shit ever. Especially like I don't remember if it's a 2.4 or 2.39. If you get enough or skill speed, I was gonna call it attack speed, same shit. You end up clipping your animations and it just looks bad. Now I don't give a shit because I'm usually doing something else or talking or bullshitting, but there are people who stop playing a game. By the way, congratulations to Final Fantasy 14. If you guys didn't hear this, and I'm trying to confirm, but congratulations to Final Fantasy 14. Somebody has unseated WoW as the most actively played MMORPG. Final Fantasy now has 2.5 million active players, where neither of the WoW clients, neither of the WoW products independently have more than 2.5. So congratulations to Final Fantasy. I heard Asmongold's going to go over to Final Fantasy for a bit. What I do like about Final Fantasy 14 is how crazy good the trial is. I haven't seen a single MMO so far that gives as much freedom in a trial to try the game. Yeah. Also, if anybody ever decides they want to play Final Fantasy, I can give you a friend code. It gives you a bunch of goodies. Anybody that plays can give you a friend code. That's not a creator thing. Just find a friend. But yeah, Final Fantasy 14 has been amazing. Asmongold thinks the game is full weeb. He'll be hard-pressed to stick with it, but he'll likely enjoy it. You know what's gonna really shock the world? Is I don't think Asmongold's gonna like the combat. Hi, Zenedra. I don't think Asmongold's gonna like the combat. But I think Asmongold's gonna see how Yoshi P does things, and he's gonna see how that company handles things, and he's gonna go back to he's gonna go back and he's gonna say, why isn't Blizzard doing what Square Enix is? I think that's what's gonna be the most beneficial thing for the WoW community, for Asmongold to go to another game and to see how their team treats their players. And then he's going to be like, well, why isn't Blizzard doing this? Why isn't Activision doing this? Because if you think people at Activision and Blizzard aren't watching Asmongold, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but they absolutely are. Would I say WoW has a low skill ceiling? I would say WoW has a medium skill ceiling and a low skill game. And what I mean by that is they idiot proofed WoW. And one of you WoW players is going to have to tell me when this happened. But I remember when I played a mage, I had 3 full skill trees that I could mix and match, and I had X number of points, and I could go this far into one, I could go this far into another, I could make my own class, I could do a hybrid Frost Arcane. It didn't matter if you thought it was a good or not, I had the opportunity to build how I wanted. Okay? And now I go in, and I have to pick a path, and then I get to pick a total of 6 abilities. And they're called my PvP abilities. but they work in PvE. So I went back, I played WoW at the beginning of this year. I wanted to see the Forsaken storyline, and all I have to say is they did a really good job updating the game for the player acquisition and retention funnel. And then I don't know why Chromie doesn't let you do the entire game in expansion pack order. It was very difficult to enjoy WoW because I wanted to do Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King. You know, I wanted to do them in order, and you can do that if you go to Chromie, but Chromie doesn't even have them in the right order. So it's very difficult for somebody who doesn't want to spend 20 minutes on Google trying to figure this shit out. When we talk about competition making games better, I'm interested in how the new Camelot game will handle stuff like large-scale sieges. The new Camelot game is probably not coming out. The new Camelot Unchained is probably not going to come out. Camelot Unchained has been in development for, how long? Camelot Unchained has been in development since... Where the fuck is there? Usually there's a thing there. Since it's been out of Kickstarter since 2013. So you're talking 8 years out of Kickstarter. Now, 8 years is the magic number. And here's why 8 years is the magic number. 8 years is the magic number because an MMORPG traditionally takes 6 to 8 years to put out. Some people get it done faster. Excel Games gets games done faster. 8 years. Okay, 8 years. You're talking about people that had an idea 11 years ago. What is Camelot Unchained based around? A 3-faction system. What are most of the games going to now? Factionless systems. Because the new trend is people don't want factions anymore. Faction games always work out as server 1 is the Reds, server 2 is the Blues, server 3 is the Blues, server 4 is the Reds. People bail on the server when they're not the faction in power. Camelot Unchained is currently developing, what is it, Ragnarok? Because their new investor wants a tower defense game. I don't see Camelot Unchained making it to market. I'm sorry. 2 years ago, over 4th of July weekend, I was going to buy into Camelot Unchained, and then they at the last minute said, we're keeping our NDA up. Well, I was looking, 2 years ago, I was looking for something to stream. I like how Terra did it, no factions, and the PvP was guild-driven. Yep, and that's how Ashes is doing it. There's a low barrier to entry, but from what I heard, there are some absolutely insane PvPers, which would indicate a high skill ceiling for PvP, even in Tab Target. Yeah, but you're talking about, I'm going to say it's a medium skill ceiling in a low skill game. When you don't have, see, in a tab, and people never want to recognize this. Tab games have a skill set, just like action games do. Part of the skill set in a game is knowledge, is information, is intelligence, is the ability to know as a X, I can't beat a Y. As a X to beat a Z, I have to do this. As an X to beat an A, as an X versus an A, I have to like not have an aneurysm and I have to not roll my face across the keyboard. WoW hasn't done anything to try to balance shit. And I don't know, the last 2 expansions. And what I mean by that is, I don't remember how many, off the top of my head, I don't know how many total specs there are. There are 12 classes. If I remember correctly, there's 12 classes in WoW, 3 specs apiece. So there's 36 total classes plus specs, right? WoW has about a third of them that are just non-viable. It was like Archeage. It was great when Archeage. Oh, +1. Druid has 4 specs. Okay, so 37 specs. It was just like in Archeage. Archeage Original 1.0. They said there's 120 classes, and that was great. Except of the 120 classes, Demon Hunter has 2. Okay, so we're 36. There were 120 classes in Archeage. 30 of them were viable. 15 of them were basically the go-to, and 5 were meta. When you have 120 classes and 5 of them are meta, you done fucked up somewhere. By the way, random thought, couldn't you just rush the throne room choke point on a fast mount? You could, but you have to survive in there for 4 minutes. The choke has to be there for 4 minutes, and you do die when you're rolling through the choke point. When you're going through the choke point, the amount of AoE that's going to be getting dropped in there, yeah, just going to kill you. But we'll see how that plays out. We'll see, especially if you can destroy the walls. The walls are supposed to be destroyable, so we'll see how that works. Oh, let's see. Any MMO after all these expansions, power creeps, new classes, eventually is going to be shit balance-wise? No, I disagree with you. I disagree with you based on EVE Online. EVE Online has done a very good job of having expansion after expansion, having new thing after new thing, and not have shit balance-wise because of how EVE works. But EVE works very specifically. I believe you could build your game and not have power creep, but you have to do it right. And I think Intrepid, I think Intrepid is laying the groundwork to be EVE-like in horizontal progression. EVE is kind of in a box on its own. Yep, absolutely. And I always like to say that. EVE, when it comes to some things, EVE is like WoW. In some discussions, you acknowledge WoW. You say, okay, WoW, we acknowledge you. Now please get out of the conversation because you were a one-off. EVE is like that. EVE is how you do a game that's supposed to be successful for more than 15 years. Got it. We bow down to you. Now get out of the conversation. Does AoE differentiate between friendly fire? No, there is no friendly fire in Ashes of Creation. And let me tell you, playing Chivalry 2, which I recommend you all should play. I did a video on it. Well, I did a stream on it. I didn't really do a video. I did a stream on it. I recommend you play it. It's amazing. I really mean that. And if you buy it or any other game off of Epic and you don't have a favorite creator, Jahlon 27, doesn't do anything for you. Helps me make more jazz. Oh, speaking of which, where's the jazz? We have jazz? We do. Okay. So, that one go through? Oh, it did. Oh, nice. So, yeah, Chivalry 2 is amazing. But playing Chivalry 2, I get killed more often by my allies than I do by my opponents. I'm not really good. But yeah, I couldn't be playing the jazz while I was playing a game called Hell Architect. It just didn't work right. But yeah, hold up a second. Mounts are going to have combat abilities. Mounts are going to have abilities, but you're not going to be able to... Your mount will have abilities. You won't have abilities on your mount, if that makes sense. You can't throw a fireball or a meteor from your mount. But if your mount has, like, hoof kick, you can use hoof kick. Guild Wars 2 also has a ton of horizontal progression that keeps the balance from getting silly. Yes. Yes. That is true. Future mounts will have combat abilities. Yeah, they will have a few. They'll mostly have pursuit abilities like breakthrough, hot pursuit, charge, but they will have a couple of like stomp and a couple of things, but they aren't designing the game around mounted combat. No. Will probably pose some interesting balancing issues where you may have a mount that just beats any player. No, that won't happen. That absolutely won't happen. Appreciate that, Potty. Yeah, all that jazz. Nice chorus line reference. No, there's not gonna be a situation where a mount beats a player. Otherwise, they create meta. Steven is really cognizant of not having things that create meta. Which right now I would see absolutely no reason why my meta for Castle Sieges wouldn't be mostly AoE mages if I'm on defense. Who am I bringing? A bunch of AoE mages? Why? Hold that throne room? Throw up a wall, drop a bunch of AoE on it. Throw up another wall, drop another AoE on it. You know, little things like that. So, anybody else got any questions about the Castle Siege mode? There will always be a meta. Today's internet culture is too focused on guides and following thought leaders on this stuff. Okay, you're right. There will always be a meta because meta stands for most efficient tactic available ... for the situation. But if the meta is 0.003%, most people are going to play what they enjoy then. If I can play what I enjoy and not be radically underpowered, I'm going to play what I enjoy. Is it 1% meta? You know, the tryhards, the elitists, they're going to follow even a 1% meta. If it's a 0.003% meta, people aren't going to change. People aren't going to chase that. If it's a 50% meta, absolutely, people will chase that. The buffs the dragons give are extra physical defense, after extra magic defense, extra crit damage is the ones I had. Somebody else that was on the other side might be able to tell you what the other buffs were. I only ever had the bonus defense and bonus crit. Like I said, I want to sit down and talk to Steven and say, get rid of these dragons, man. Get rid of these dragons altogether. Current meta can sometimes be countered with an old meta. Seen it happen a lot. Yeah, because meta, people always forget that it's most efficient tactic available for the situation. People always want to forget the other part of that is the most efficient tactic available. Most efficient tactic available right now, you know, snipers in first-person shooters. If you're a good sniper player, if a sniper rifle one-shots people, that's the meta. But it's not the meta for everybody. The most efficient tactic available for the situation. Can you aim a sniper rifle? If you can't aim the sniper rifle, then it's not the most efficient tactic available for you. It's the most efficient tactic available, but since you can't aim well, what do you do with that? I'm tired of people in Chivalry 2 throwing axes at my head. I play a knight. I play the middle knight with the shield. When you see the person winding up like this, I right block and I put the shield up. Counters their meta, and they now lost their throwing weapon. Do we expect NPC forces to be a thing for sieges? No. I heard a major hiring NPC guards and stuff. No. There are going to be NPC mini-bosses, but those are the dragons. Are you going to be able to hire NPC captains? No, but yes. We're waiting to find an answer about that. But no, I think right now their major NPCs are the dragons. Do you have any idea how expensive sieges will be? Yes. A lot. Siege declaration flags are expensive. Do you need to pay extra for additional defensive, offensive siege mechanics machines and stuff? Yes, you do. You have to build up your siege machines. You got to bring those with you. What those prices are, we don't know. When something becomes meta, finding what counters the meta becomes the meta. Yes. Because so many people only follow the handwritten guide. In the full game, do you think some nodes will be way more strategically advantaged for defense than others? Maybe even including good spawn points under the throne room? No. You can't hear the jazz. Oh, you know why? Because, my headset is dead, and We can hear the jazz? Okay, it's a problem on your end. Well, my headset died. I can't hear the jazz. I can't hear my own jazz. But yeah, the nodes aren't going to be balanced like that. The nodes are going to be balanced for their type and like a military stage 4 node will be a military stage 4 node. By the way, for those of you that like the jazz and you want to be able to listen to it when I'm not here, Paradox Gaming Network music, the jazz, and Steampunk Dreams. I also put a video out on Steampunk Dreams today. So a new video went out. Will you be able to sell castles and stuff like without going through the trouble of fake siege? No, you can't sell a castle. Also, fake sieging is going to be dangerous. But I need to talk to Steven about the exploit of fake sieging. But Steven is aware of that because Steven did it in Archeage, so I'm sure he has a counter to it. I played in yesterday's Siege as a defender and was impressed with no lag and no rubber banding. Playing from UK. Yeah, there was no lag and there was no rubber banding in the Siege at all. Now, the rubber banding there wouldn't be because there's not mobs to kill in the... well, there are... but there's not enough mobs in the area to cause the ghosted AI controller. The ghosted AI controller still exists. That issue still exists, but they are they put out a build for Friday that hopefully incorporates some changes, because I definitely saw a different iteration in the Friday build. If the guild that holds the castle decides to give it up, you can't really do much about it. You can, and let me show you. Let me show you how you do that. Ready? And this is a concern of mine that I've had. So here's the castle, right? And you've got the Red Monarch, and the Red Monarch wants to sell the castle to the new guild. Right? Wants to sell the castle. In fact, you know what? Hold on. My OCD is tripping out on me here. There we go. That little white line around the chalkboard was killing me. So you've got the Red Monarch and he wants to sell the castle. And so the blue guild leader drops a blue level 1 siege flag, because it's the cheapest one. It's the cheapest quality siege flag. And now on Sunday, he's just going to walk into the throne room. He's going to channel, right? And he's going to take the throne. I think this is bullshit. And I see this happen in games all the time. Now, they dropped a level 1 flag. And I come along and I drop a level 5 flag. In my opinion, that should cancel their siege. And now all of Mighty Paradox is going to come, and these guys probably aren't ready to fight. I think that the way it needs to work is I should be able to drop a higher quality, higher level flag than you. And be like, nope, I'm taking the siege. The siege is mine. Because this idea of trades ruins games. It absolutely ruins games. I've seen guild leaders destroy their guild. I've seen guild leaders destroy their guild because a guild leader's like, you know what, guys? Fuck you. I got a new girlfriend. She hates me playing video games. I got offered $5,000 real world money for the castle. I'm gonna give it to the person who just offered me a bunch of money. You reckon the guys that place the tier 1 flag should get their money back for the flag? No. That's the risk you took. That's the risk you took by dropping a stage 1 flag. What happens if the ownership holder leaves the guild he got it with? Is it bound to him or the guild? That's a good question. That's a good question. I would imagine that the guild leader who currently holds a castle, a monarch, can't leave the guild. Now, the monarch could kick everybody else out of the guild, but the monarch probably can't disband the guild. The monarch probably disband the guild and can't disband the guild till they no longer are a monarch. It's probably part of that level of responsibility. Will there be able to be more than 2 parties at sieges? There will be. Well, yes. There's a lot of ways this works. So roll this back a bit. Get some. You know, that red dot is just irritating me. Why is there a red? There's like a red dot right here. And it's just pissing me off. And now you only have 1 leg. Okay, so, and you don't need a green leg. You need a red leg. So, yeah, it would be weird if you could just take it to a new guild, and you could disbanding the guild could reset the castle to NPC controlled. Yeah, that would be weird. So this is we're gonna flip sides here, right? And this is King Jahlon, and I've got my loyal 250 member garrison. I'm streaming today. Yeah, I streamed a game called Hell's Architect for a little bit, and then I'm streaming right now. I'm streaming for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go for my run. I needed to cover that game because Keymailer changed their policies. You need to turn your keys into content pretty quickly. So here's the paradox controlled castle, right? Or pair of ducks, right? Paradox. And we have 250 person garrison strong. And this person comes along and they drop a siege flag, right? And they only have a 75 person guild. And now obviously, right? Obviously they don't want to fight outnumbered by 175 people. So they go and they get another 50 person guild. They get a 50 person guild, right? They get a 75 person guild to all sign up with them. Now, a couple of things here. This person has to approve the people who participate, right? But they're really good at negotiating. They're really good at talking, and they got these people here. So they invite. Obviously, if you want their guild, you're going to invite their guild leaders. Here's the flaw of this. You invited 3 other guild leaders and their 2 IC, their second in command, right? And they're all in here. Benefit to the attackers. There's now a total of 8 people on the board who can channel the throne room. Sad part about this, he can be betrayed by 6 other people because he can channel and his second in command can channel, but any guild leader and any guild leader's second in command can channel. So, you know, this guy paid the price. He put the flag down. This guild leader sneaks in and does the channel. And now this guild leader becomes the king. That's a design decision. That is a design decision. That is their design. That is, if you saw the TV show Hannibal, this is their design. This is the risk versus reward of you not being able to siege the castle by yourself. This is the risk versus reward of you having to bring outside people because you can't complete the siege on your own. You run the risk of somebody stealing it. And I love that idea. That's exactly how that should work. Here's why. My alliance wants to move to another side of the map. My alliance wants to move to the other side of the map. And we know one of the guilds you invited. We don't want to hold this castle anymore. We don't want to hold this castle anymore. We just get out of the way. Paradox wants to peace out to the other side of the map, right? But we want Squishy and the Plague Doctors to get that castle. But somebody else already dropped the flag, and that somebody else invited Squishy and the Plague Doctors into the siege. All we do is we say, all right, Squishy and the Plague Doctors, go to the left gate. Take out the left gate. Take out the main gate. Take out the throne room gate. Get the hell in here. Get to the back of the throne room. And then, like Troy in the movie Troy, we let the Plague Doctors in, and then we close ranks on the entryway. The channel is started. You have to get through us. Oh, but there's no friendly fire. There's nothing you can do. Squishy and the Plague Doctors betrayed you. They started the channel. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Because they're on your side. They're winning the objective for you. The only problem is they're taking the castle. Saturday stream, yeah, I had to cover a game, so damn you, Squishy. By the way, this guy was a gift from Tamir, and let me just tell you, he's so squishy. Wolfus Moon wants to steal that. I will beat her among the head and shoulders with a stick. Let's see. It would be so interesting, like, to have a world bulletin or in-game gazette where chronicles are narrated. Actually, there's a guy making a website called Ashes of History, History of Ashes, Chronicles of Ashes. It escapes me at the moment. But yeah, somebody's making a product that's going to allow people to go to a website and set up their server and put like video clips on events. Beautiful project. I fully support this creator. So the only thing I don't think you'd be able to do that. So how hot is it? Because my show is approaching 3 hours, which is what I wanted to dedicate. Oh my God, it's 95. I'm gonna melt. I am gonna melt outside. Luckily, I have properly hydrated. I'm gonna go do 3 miles. My 3090 might melt inside. Yeah, man, even with that, thank you so much. I don't know what happened to my voice there. Thank you so much to everybody who sat down with me about this air conditioning unit. Let me pop out here real quick. This air conditioning unit right there, right? Thank you to everybody who worked with. Oh, I gotta turn off that, don't I? Thank you to everybody who worked with me, because I got the two hose model. I got the 2-hose model for that because somebody was reminding me. They're like, yeah, dude, you don't want to get the 1-hose model because you've got computer equipment in there. It's gonna mess with your shit. And it was funny. I was like, man, I've never heard of high humidity. I've never heard of high humidity trashing a computer. And then somebody yesterday, Araj was working in their basement, and due to the high humidity, the high moisture in their basement, they fried their machine. So thank you for that. I will tell you guys, anybody that's going to get a 3090, I don't care what your cooling solution is. Your 3090 is going to get significantly warm. Now, when I say significantly warm, the 3090 itself is only running at 61 degrees Celsius, right? It's only running at 61 degrees Celsius. No, I don't overclock. Mine came overclocked, and that was causing all those issues I was having early on. What the hell do you need to overclock a 3090 for? Like, why are you overclocking a 3090? Why? Like, why? But yeah, mine came pre-overclocked. Origin apologized. Somebody must have been running late on a Friday or going home from work, and they left the overclock setting on. That's what was causing all the issues. But yeah, I just want to remind you that it doesn't matter how cool the thing runs. If you have a piece of equipment in your office that's 140 degrees Fahrenheit, you're gonna heat up your room. This room gets up to 82 if I'm streaming with the door shut. This house doesn't have any return vents. That's why I bought the floor air conditioner. A 3090, they run hot. Margaret's melted, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. If you have a 30 series graphics card and you're testing Ashes of Creation, make sure you have your temperature monitor up. I crashed yesterday, and I was like, shit, did I burn out my fucking graphics card? But it was just an Unreal Engine error. But yeah, make sure you're treating your 3090 with love and respect, because they are persnickety little bitches. With that said, I'm gonna go face the outdoors. Thank you guys for hanging out for a couple hours on a Rogue Saturday. My schedule is flexible on Saturdays. I will remind you, if you haven't followed me on Twitter, if you have a Twitter, I tweet out when I go live. On my Discord, you'll get a little announcement. Make sure you follow the channel. Make sure you turn on notifications, all that stuff, so you see when I go live. And if you guys ever need anything during the week when I'm not streaming on Discord, just PM me on Discord. Somebody asked me a question about Ghost AI controllers. They wanted a better explanation. That stuff makes me happy. I'm happy to do that. It makes me feel useful. Like they said in Con Air, I'm a useful mammal. So I will see you guys on Monday for my usual show. Take care.
I say, Sprocket, we've reached the end of another video. Time to thank the sponsors. Yes, that will do, that will do. Shall we pop off for a spot of tea?